to part 33 on the Lackawanna Cut-Off, droning over the cutoff. Hi, I'm Chuck Walsh, and we're here at Andover, New Jersey to do a trip over the cutoff via drone. Now, in previous episodes, we've done walking over the cutoff, driving over the cutoff, bicycling over the cutoff, and even one episode which we flew over the cutoff. Now, obviously, if you're either on a bicycle or on a car or walking, this is about the level of where you're going to see things. In an airplane, it's going to be at 2,500 feet. However, in a drone, you get the nice middle ground where you're able to see detail down below, but also see the wider picture. And since this video is going to be in 4K, you'll even get that greater resolution than we've been able to give you in the past. Now, what we're going to do is not only, we're going to end up here at Andover, but we're also going to take you from literally from the beginning of the cutoff at Port Morris Junction, actually even further east there to show you the relationship with Lake Hopatcong Station, and then travel west to here, and then a little bit even further west of Andover, because the tracks, when they're put down, hoping by 2026, that's what New Jersey Transit is saying, that the tracks will actually extend a little bit farther beyond the station here. And that's not even talking about Amtrak, but let's at this point talk about New Jersey Transit. So along the way, you're going to see places where there's track and places where there isn't track. But whatever the case, I'm going to give you a little bit of a narrative as we go through the entire 7.5 miles. Hopefully I won't be droning on during that period of time. But to give a little bit more perspective, I want to bring in my friend Michael Herrmann. Mike is, well, maybe you can describe what you do. You have your own channel where you fly drones and do all sorts of neat stuff. Maybe you could tell us just a little bit about that.
Sure, thanks, Chuck. Well, today and in the weeks earlier, we are going to be filming here out at the cutoff. I have a channel where I do some drone shots, and sometimes we're tracking objects, and sometimes it's a boat, and sometimes it's a car, and sometimes it's off-roading. But we use a Mavic Air 2 drone. It has a battery life of about 30 minutes, so we film this in segments. We'll fly at about 120 to 130 feet, depending on the treetops. On a day like today, we'll make sure there's nobody flying planes, which there are a lot today. It's a beautiful day. So we have to make sure we watch out for traffic. We have a good signal, we get some good video for you, and that's what we've been doing the last couple of weeks to get you some view of the cutoff.
So, Mike, how fast can that drone go, or what typically during the video that the folks are going to see, roughly what's your speed?
Yeah, we're doing about 15-20 miles an hour. We want to be able to give you a cinematic view. While the drone can fly faster than that, we try to give you a little bit of a smooth view as we're going down the cutoff.
And is there the possibility of, we've seen in previous filming, hawks and birds that may be interested in your drone? Is that any kind of hazard in a sense?
Yes. So birds of prey see a foreign object flying around, and it's their territory, so they may come and swoop down. I've had one bird strike with a previous drone, and it survived, but still, it's the bird's territory, so this is a foreign object. So yes, thankfully, we just keep our distance from the hawks.
So it's truly going to be a bird's eye view that we're going to see. So here we go. We'll be starting at Lake Hopatcong, headed towards where we are right now at Andover. Okay, here we go. The drone is looking from Lake Hopatcong towards Port Morris Junction, less than a quarter mile away, around the curve there to the left. Going to swing around. We're just going to get a real quick sighting. There you can see it, the lake far left corner. We swing around, and we're looking at Lake Hopatcong Station, the New Jersey Transit Station. That's Landing Road with the cars backed up going over the bridge. That bridge has been there since 1911 at least, because it shows up in photos from that era. It is going to be replaced shortly. It is now not only obsolete, but it's not in good condition. So there you see the station as it looked back in the very beginning, actually, just after it opened in 1911. Big tourist stop, at least during the summertime, for the lake, which, as you can see, is very close. Morris Canal was just off to the left of the parking lot, you see. Now we're starting to move over to where the station is today. That's owned by the Lake Hopatcong Historical Society. That's a historical society for the lake, not for the railroad per se, but they've done a really nice job of restoring the station, and the roof is now basically a facsimile of the original. They spent a lot of money on that. Got some very good grants. But here you can see the layout, and now the lake shows up in the far upper left-hand corner by Lakeside Boulevard at the intersection. That's going to be reconfigured so that the access to Lake Hopatcong Station is going to improve, which it really needs to do. Okay, now we're focusing back towards Port Morris Yard and the Cut-Off. That building in upper end right-hand corner is going to come down. It's going to be part of the reconfiguration of the intersection, which is not good in terms of trying to get in and out of the station. So that's going to be a huge improvement. We're looking at the Montclair Boughton line, once again facing towards Port Morris Junction, which you can see in the very upper left-hand corner right now. And here we are. Now we're at Port Morris Junction. A temporary track goes off to the Cut-Off. Port Morris Tower, or UN Tower, on the right there. This is a shot from December of 2011 when New Jersey Transit was delivering rail to the Cut-Off here. Port Morris Yard on the left-hand side, and now we're going to begin our trip, our westbound trip up the Cut-Off. We'll pass over where the Morris Canal crossed, right about where the trees start on the left-hand side, somewhere in this neighborhood over here. It's about there, just where we're going. We come up to the Alp 44 locomotives that have been stored here for almost 10 years now. The west leg of the Port Morris Y, you see all those concrete ties that are going to be used further west here, Musconetcong River. This is the first tracked section of the Cut-Off. There are 3 track sections and 2 gaps in between. And we get a level of a locomotive view, just about. You see the remaining track that has not yet been laid out onto the Cut-Off. West leg of the Y. You can see the work that New Jersey Transit has been doing in terms of cutting down trees. You see all the sawdust. You'll notice it as we go along. In the 10 years since the last construction activity on the cutoff, there have been a number of trees that have come down. There we see Lake Hopatcong, which borders Port Morris Yard and Netcom. And we continue west. This section we took during the fall, actually October of 2021. So you'll see the trees and the foliage and also some color. The rest of the video will have been taken during the spring of 2022, so you won't be seeing too much in the way of foliage. And there we go. See, there's a transition. Now we're in 2022. You can see Mike and myself standing down below there as we head for the County Road 602 grade crossing, the future grade crossing as it will be. Not happy that there's going to be a grade crossing, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Okay, so you see the grade crossing that was created when they abandoned the underpass, the original underpass. Now we see our first gap where there's no tracks. Originally the cutoff was built without any grade crossings. So it's a sad thing that we're going to be seeing one grade crossing on the Andover section, and in the event that Amtrak comes in and extends beyond Andover, that we'll see another grade crossing at Greendale. So here there's the second track section, and on the left of the right-of-way you can see dozens of places where trees have been sawed down, with chainsaws. So it's a lot of cleanup. This is actually where a tornado came through several years ago. So this was a really messed up section as far as trees were concerned. Some concrete ties. See where the tracks have been disconnected purposefully, as far as I'm aware. As we continue west, our next point of interest will be the 605 crossing. Oh, just barely off to the left you could see the Lenape Valley High School. Didn't really get a good view. Track curves now. Now we see the new bridge coming into view, which is much wider than the original one. And the original one from 1911 is just beyond the new one. It straightened out the crossing of the cutoff here. See the school bus crossing there. And then the original bridge, which was narrow and on sharp approaches. And now there's a trail, which you can see off to the left here, which is that acts as a connector too. Lots of water down below. It will not be difficult to fix this. It looks a lot worse than it is. It's just a matter of reestablishing the drainage dishes. The problem is that with lack of maintenance over literally decades now, that you just have water that takes over. It finds the path of least resistance. Now we're coming up to what was from 1958 on was called West Port Morris, because there was two tracks going into one. This is the third track section.
Roseville sidings. You can see that the right-of-way here is much wider than it was previously, and it will start to shrink down a little bit. It's a little over a mile's worth of area where there was additional tracks. So at one time, 4 tracks, 2 sidings, and the 2 mainline tracks. This is an area where the cutoff actually follows the natural terrain. You'll see on the right, basically cliffs, and this is one of the few places where, when the cutoff was built, it didn't challenge Mother Nature in the sense of just basically blasting through things. Here you see a hawk flying down below us. Actually, another one, a couple of them. I don't know if they're interested in us or not, but fortunately they will leave us alone. But you see these cliffs, we're basically at the level of the cliff right now. There we go. Now they're circling around us. They're at the same height. They will leave us alone, fortunately, but they may. Yeah, we're going to just go up a little bit higher now. They may, in fact, be monitoring us, if that's the right word. Okay, now we start moving west here. See the power lines off to the right. This is one of the most, I don't want to say desolate areas on the cutoff, but it's certainly one of the more difficult ones to get to. You have to walk quite a bit in order to get to this spot. There's no easy access, is what I'm getting to. In other words, there's no road nearby here. That trail, whatever it is more like on the right-hand side. I think it's been made by ATVers, which goes around through the right-of-way of the power lines. See, the tracks continue. The third section is just a little bit under 2 miles long, so it's the longest contiguous section of the 3. Just a little bit under 4 miles total have been laid of track over the 7.5 miles that will eventually be laid as part of this project, New Jersey Transit's minimum operating segment, MOS as they call it, for Andover service from the connection at Port Morris Junction. Gentle curve. And here's a little bit of trivia. 2-degree curve, 70 miles an hour. And that will continue all the way to the end of the track that has been laid. And actually beyond where the track has been laid, the curve will continue. You start to see cliffs off into the upper left-hand corner. They overlook Lake Lackawanna, which will be coming up on the left. And we see Mike and myself standing here. We had to keep moving in order to do this, of course, because there's only a limited amount of range that the drone had. And there's the end of track. So that's the end of the third section. And now we pass over what is, at this point, empty right-of-way, what it looks like since the tracks were removed in 1984. As we head for that bluff off on the right-hand side, we'll see Dallas Pond on the right. See that blue off on the right. Lubber Run Fill, one of the bigger fills on the cutoff. Nothing that matches the Peak West fill, but it's still a very tall fill, about 100 feet tall. Lake Lackawanna, which we'll get a better view later on when the music is playing. You can see how it's a really tall fill. And then there's that bluff up on the right, which is it's going to be a neat place to be to watch trains when the trains return here. Old Wolf Lake Road, which is closed off. I kind of remember it being open back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, but then it was closed off. Wolf Lake off on the left. There are a series of dams that have created these lakes. One that creates Lake Lackawanna, one that creates Dallas Pond, which is, that dam is right next to the cutoff. There's a channel underneath the cutoff for that, but there's also a dam that creates Wolf Lake, and one which we'll see shortly that creates Wright Pond over by Roseville Tunnel. Roseville Road on the left-hand side here. It's a very pretty section. We're not getting a real good view of the right-of-way because there hasn't been any clearing that's been taking place here. That will come. And we can see, it's a little bit of water on the right-hand side, which is actually, I don't know that that's part of what was called Pumpkin Run, but there was actually a feeder, I'll say, type of stream that, at least on this side, created all these ponds, because there has to be a source of water. It isn't just the fact that there's a dam. There has to be a source of water for all this, and that Pumpkin Run was the source at that one time. Technically, I don't believe that really exists any further, except for maybe the short connection between Wright Pond and everything else here. I'll point that out. But you can see here as we move along, lots of evergreens on the right-hand side. So that's the only green we're seeing. In the far distance, you can see the hills there, and then we're heading towards Roseville Tunnel. Now you can see coming up on the left-hand side, Roseville Road again. Roseville Road passes under the cutoff twice and over it once. And then we see on the right-hand side Wright Pond, and Pumpkin Run, to the extent that it still exists, would be technically the connection between Wright Pond and whatever is on the south side or left side. I don't know that has any name. Maybe Roseville Pond. I'm not really sure. On some maps, it's unnamed. I think I've seen it with Roseville Pond, but in any case, it's part of this whole conglomerate of bodies of water which have been created because of the fact that we have a damming at Lake Lackawanna. Roseville Tunnel, not originally planned to be a tunnel, but we look back now and we get a view of, and we're now going to get a then and now shot here. There. Wharton Fill, as it was called, looking back at in the eastbound direction on the cutoff. This is before the tunnel was actually decided on. This is a shot from the Erie-Lackawanna days, the westbound train coming up on the cutoff. Okay, so now we're back at the east portal of Roseville Tunnel, and now we're going to take a look upwards from the tunnel itself. We'll keep on going up and up and up. You can see lots of trees that have to be cleared out here, and also there will be some little bit of rockfall mitigation on this side, not too much. It's going to be mostly on the other side of Roseville Tunnel. Okay, now we go up to the tunnel itself. You can see above here that a good portion of this tunnel, or the area above the tunnel, was cleared off. Here's some folks that were doing some practice going up and down on ropes. They're scaling the tunnel before it gets closed off for activity relating to the renovation and rehabilitation of the tunnel. Okay, now we've moved over to the west portal, and you can see that we're taking off here. This is Colby Cut, the largest cut on the cutoff. Armstrong Cut, they're neck and neck in terms of their size. And then you can see off to the left-hand side is C.O. Johnson Park, which is the way you access Roseville Tunnel if you want to come over and take a look while it's still open. And this is, here we are. And we're watching our drone go up, and this is still the west portal where the drone's going to turn around in a second. There we go. So we're going to look down at Colby Cut. Water and ice during the winter is a big problem. That's part of, I'll say a major reason for the rehabilitation of the tunnel. And now we head out on Colby Cut. A large cut that's going to be, especially on the right-hand side or the north side, it's going to be seeing rockfall mitigation, like netting type of thing that's going to prevent rocks from falling onto the right-of-way. In the past, the Lackawanna and Erie Lackawanna had rockfall detectors. It was kind of a primitive type of, I'll call it a detector system that would, if a big rock hit the fencing, it would cause the signals to turn red and would stop trains, and they'd have to go and clear the rocks off if they actually got that close. But the choice has been made not to go with that kind of thing, but something that will actually prevent the rockfall type of activity to occur. Roseville Road. This is a new bridge, a relatively new bridge, only about 5 years old right now. And we will parallel Roseville Road as we go towards Andover, which is just beyond that rock, big, I wouldn't call it a cliff, or maybe an outcropping, or a hill, maybe that might be the better word for it, on the left-hand side. And the cutoff will curve to the left. This is a long straightaway or tangent piece of track, a couple of miles long, and then we'll start to curve towards the Peak West Fill. Off to the right, we're going to see Hudson Farm, which has been the source of half a dozen years at least of delay because of an issue with a pipe, a culvert. They've explained in previous episodes the issue there, but I'll just say this, that it was a lot to do about nothing, quite frankly, although it hasn't turned out to be nothing in terms of the delays, but it really is, quite frankly, a stupid thing that has to be done. But it is what it is. Okay, so now we're curving towards Andover, and we'll start seeing the Peak West Valley, and we will actually go out onto the Peak West Fill, because when they plan to put the track down, they're actually going to not only come to the station at Andover, but actually go beyond the station. The station area, we're taking a look down here, and this would be part of it. The station area is between the Cut-Off and Roseville Road, which is nearby. Here's Hudson Farm again. It's actually only about 500 feet upstream from the station. The same stream that goes from Hudson Farm under the Cut-Off at Andover, called Andover Junction Brook. There's very close proximity of the two things. Basically, the station and the Hudson Farm are not very far apart. And you can see we're right over where the station would be. The Roseville Road will curve off to the right there, and then just beyond that, we go on to the massive Peak West Fill. We're only going to go as far as just before Route 206, and that's about as far as the tracks will go. There will be like extra, I don't call it storage space, but they're putting down extra track for presumably where they can put trains that are being stored for morning rush hour if they do it that way. And Route 206 is going to undergo a big project, which is going to replace the underpass and expand the underpass, and they have to take the fill away from on top of it. It's going to be a big project, and it's also going to cause road detours, which are going to be tough while that is in effect. The town of Andover is off on the right, and we're just coming up to Route 206. And this would be the end of the New Jersey Transit project. Beyond this, hopefully we'll see Amtrak.
So that's droning over the cutoff. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't drone too much myself. Look forward to our next video, which will be part 34 on the Lackawanna Cut-Off.